All right, welcome to another episode of That's My Dad. I'm Scott Hilton here with Kenny Malone. Welcome to the program, Kenny.
It's good to be here, Scott. Thanks for the opportunity to come speak.
I guess some people wonder why have I invited so many of my old high school football buddies, but it was because, I was close to you guys. I know your stories.
Correct.
Inspired by you guys. We had a special group of guys, and you were our safety.
Correct.
I was a nose guard, and you were the safety, so I never got to see what you did until you laid somebody out. You held the record at one time. I guess you still do hold the record of the most starts in a career.
Correct. I think
football.
Again, I think it was 41 total starts. I think I played a little bit of outside linebacker as well my senior year, but mostly it was the safety spot.
Yeah.
And good old times.
Kenny, when we started to do the podcast, I had you on my list from the very beginning. We only have 50 interviews, so we're going to do. And I had you on my list from the very beginning because I know what kind of person you are now as an adult.
Yes, sir.
But I never recall seeing your dad around back when we were playing ball.
Right.
So I want to talk some about that situation and how you overcame and turned around a situation where your dad wasn't there that much in the beginning.
Correct. That's correct. He was not. Through much of my childhood, he was not. Especially during high school years, of course, as you stated, that my biological father was not a part of our life at that time. I had a stepdad who was in our life pretty much throughout our entire childhood. And throughout that time, he was a provider, but somewhat abusive. And that wasn't a real good setting. Growing up in that type of environment made it kind of difficult to deal with what we had to deal with already with school, sports, and things of that nature. Friends wasn't really allowed in our home or anything, and it was not a real good environment. However, we made do with it, and but as far as my biological father, regarding him being in our life in our childhood life, really wasn't that much involved. I'll say this real quick. I think back now, and I can appreciate the relationship that we have now, and I think sometimes how I feel as he, as anyone would have, a lot of regret because you are not involved during that time. Much better relationship now, but during that time it was not a whole lot of connection throughout our childhood.
Was that just what he knew to do, or was there a reason for that? Have you thought about that?
What happened, he and my mother ended up getting divorced. He married again, remarried, had other children in that family, with his family, and just left town. I believe they moved to Ohio for a while and then ended up moving back to Atlanta. And it was when they moved to Atlanta that George, Darrell, and I was at Carver Gym one day. And there was this guy. We always knew that we had other siblings, but just didn't know who they were. And that was this guy that was there in the gym as well playing basketball. And I just, for some reason, I thought he and I resembled each other. And so we kind of played around a little bit, and somebody, I want to say that it was Bobby Simpson, your classmate, introduced us and let us know, I think y'all related, So
Really?
we began to talk, and we're brothers,
Really?
come to find out we're brothers. And it was at that time, I was probably about 8th, 9th grade during that time. And after coming to that point, we kind of kept in contact with each other, still not a whole lot of communication between me and my dad. just kind of communicating with my brother. And
So was he a full brother?
Half
brother? You didn't know he existed?
I knew he existed, just didn't know who he was.
Correct. How did it feel when you found out you had a half brother?
I was excited about it, actually. It's almost like when someone new come into your life, mm-hmm. They bring something. And there was a whole lot of similarities there. I felt like, again, that we resembled one another. He had bow legs, and just like I got bow legs, and built the same pretty much. And the conversation was welcoming, and because we had a lot in common.
So did that lead you to get to meet your biological dad?
It did. It did. We kind of communicated a little bit. Some after that, as I got into high school, and more so after I got out of high school. I can remember he did send me something for my graduation. The summer that I graduated, I went to Atlanta and I stayed with them for a week. And what's funny about that is, as much devilment as I got in here, it didn't hold a candle to the kind of stuff that they was doing over there in Atlanta. So by the time that week was up, I was ready to come home.
So how'd you reestablish? You and your dad have a good relationship now.
Correct.
How did that happen? What was the process you went through there?
Well, it's just, I think time had a lot to do with it. One of the things, a couple of things that I decided that I, of course, decided that I wouldn't do, because of the lack thereof of a relationship that we had. One thing I promised myself, that I would always make myself available to my children. And then at the same time, I would not allow the opportunity to be passed up to have a relationship with him. I had some bitterness about it somewhat, but at the same time, I made a decision that I was not going to. If he wanted to have a relationship with me, then I was willing to do the same thing with him, because I can't understand how someone would not want to have a relationship with their children. I don't understand that. I can't say for sure that why that was, but at the same time, I believe that, again, that there is some regret with him in regards to that, and I respect that, and I can appreciate that. Don't necessarily hold it against him. Just try to still show my appreciation and respect for him.
How painful is it to grow up without your dad? Do you think about it, or is it?
It's throughout the years of that time, it was very painful. But like I said before, I was in a household where my stepdad was abusive, and it wasn't a good environment. Provider, sometimes folks think just because they do for you that you ought to be you should be willing to take whatever they dish out. But you can feed a dog all day, but if you keep kicking him around, he gonna get tired of it.
Yeah.
And so that's how that's basically how we grew up, and by not having that there is some times that I think back about it, but as I said earlier, it was just something that I decided and chose to do differently, and I think that kind of helps. That kind of helps the situation from the time that I grew up as a child, that kind of helped ease that burden and that pain, because I can change that situation by doing something differently myself.
So instead of getting angry, instead of getting down and out,
Right.
you said, I'm going to make it better for
Right.
my kids.
Right. So
I'm going to change it for
right. So
from
I
here forward.
channeled that type of energy into doing differently.
Yeah.
And I'm a firm believer in principles. So if you do this, then this will be the outcome of it. And so I chose to go that path.
So a lot of that was driven out of pain.
Yes.
Sounds like
the
pain that you felt,
right.
you didn't want
Right.
anybody else to feel.
I didn't want that to happen to my children.
How did you figure out how to be a good dad? You're a good dad to your kids now.
Trial and error.
Okay.
I just
you really didn't have that role model at home growing
no.
up. So
It's just I wasn't going to be abusive to my kids. I was going to treat them well. I was going to make sure they were taken care of, and I just didn't want them to feel like they was in a household where you have to walk on eggshells, where you were uncomfortable. I wanted them to be comfortable in the environment that they were growing up in. So I did everything I could to present that to them so they wouldn't have to, because they, with the pressure that children have in school and dealing with friends and stuff, you don't need that same pressure at home. Mm-hmm. And so, because you're going to get it as a child in the environment that you're in school, and among so-called friends, you're gonna have to deal with that. So there's no point in them having to go to school and deal with it, and then come home and deal with the same thing. So I felt like that we could do things differently.
What are some things in retrospect? It sounds like you just kind of figured it out on the job training.
It basically was.
Looking back on it though, what are some things you think you did right?
I think that we taught our kids about respect, and we didn't have to discipline them much. Sometimes you say it's just what you say, and when you speak, they know that you mean business. I heard somebody say this here not long ago, that there was a time that boys would be afraid to walk among men, but now we're at a time where men are afraid to walk among boys. And I said that to say this because in the times that we're living in, parents think that their children are always right. And especially when you are dealing with the school systems. There was a time when we was in school, and if a teacher were to call our parents, then our parents were going to take the teacher's side and deal with you accordingly. Mm-hmm. Now their parents are being called and being summoned by the school, and they're talking about how right their children are.
Yeah, and what does that do to their kids?
It brings them up in a way that they think that they can get away with whatever, because that's what they're thinking, because they know that child already know how wrong they were. But when a parent comes and back you in regards to what you have done or what you have said, and tell the school teachers or the authorities there how wrong they are in front of a child, then that creates a very bad example for children that are coming up. So therefore, when they are in the presence of adults, they think adults ought to show them the respect.
So I'm wondering, what do you feel like the fatherless epidemic, what's that doing to our country? There are 18.4 million children will go to bed tonight without a father in their home. What do you think that does, not only to the individual, but to a society?
These children are going without fathers, And by them going without fathers, they're growing up in an environment that they're going to find themselves either in jail or in a grave if things don't change. Now, can they change in that department? I think they can, because I believe that your podcast have a lot. I mean, if you're reaching 1 million people, then it's impacting somebody's life, you know. And then if people are listening to people, the people that come on and illustrating, give an illustration to how they live their lives and were brought up, and can provide that hope for them, that's a plus. It adds to that can be done to show that young people, children that don't grow up with a father, that you still can be productive in life. You still can make it in life. You still can, because you can make your own decisions.
So I wanted you to come here because I knew what you had overcome. And so I want you to speak to the young man who is where you were. He may be a teenager, he may be in elementary school, or he may be a young adult fixing to have kids. And I want you to speak to him,
okay,
and offer him some encouragement, because what I want, I'm going to get you to look into this camera.
Okay.
What I want people to see is that here's a guy whose dad wasn't around, who's didn't have a great relationship with his stepdad,
right,
who had every reason to be mad, to turn against the world, to repeat the cycle, to just continue the snowball, but he made a change. So here's a guy who did it. And so I want you to speak to those young men who are where you used to be, and give them a word of encouragement or advice or whatever you want, whatever's on your heart to give to them.
Okay, I would definitely say, first of all, just looking back at my situation, one thing we have to do is to be willing to forgive, because that's going to be the initial step to you as an individual to get better and get to a point in your in your life where you are able to, if the possibility of reconnecting with that father, stepfather, whomever it is, you got to be willing to forgive the individual for what they did if they were not involved in your life. In my particular case, as I stated earlier, that I know that my father had some regrets about not being in our lives, but I'm grateful today that there is a great relationship between my dad and myself, as well as my brothers and sisters. But I just want to offer you some encouragement to let you know that there is hope, and you as an individual can initiate the change. There's an old saying, two wrongs don't make it right, and it takes a fool to play the game. So just because someone may not have done right by you, you don't have to do the same thing. Again, you can initiate the change. You can be the one to flip the script. You can be the one that makes the decision that we're going to do things differently. You can change the world with just a decision to decide that I'm not going to do what may have been done to me. I'm going to be an inspiration to people to help change things in the lives of young people. You never know where your life is headed. As Scott said, that I'm an example. I had no idea where God was going to carry me. I didn't know what I was going to do. But I believe that my life has been changed, first of all, because that was his direction. And I chose to follow the direction of God. And I just believe that if I can do it, you as well can do what God has done with me. So don't allow yourself to be negative. Uh, be an encourager. Encourage yourself when nobody else is willing to encourage you. Be strength sometime for yourself. You can make a difference. And I hope if, as you watch this podcast, that you look at my life and you see that if God will do it for me, He'll do it for you also.
That's great. Coming from a guy who's been there, that speaks powerful. So we got one more little thing, Kenny. We got a little gift for you as we close out. Nathan's going to show you something.
Good evening. My name is Dante Malone, and this video is for you, Daddy. Pop. This is for you, sir. I'm submitting this in. The thing I like most about my dad is, he's always there. He's always there, no matter what the situation is. Even if he may feel some type of way, he's always there. And he's always there for people. He's always there trying to help people out. And that's partially where I get it from. I don't just get it from him, I get it from all family, but that's definitely one thing I've watched him do growing up, that he always is willing to give a helping hand to somebody, And my favorite story, man, there are a lot of stories I could come up with. There are too many. But I tell you, I think one that is really memorable is the first time he took me and my sister fishing. We went with him, his friends or co-workers' boat, and it was like the first time he kind of, really taught me how to fish. Guys, we had some shrimp to use as bait, and we was out there on the boat, and man, we just really had a good time. But I can't really just give one specific story. There are just so many great things. Even coming down to when he taught me how to do things, working on a car wise, or doing things with the house. I mean, there are a lot of things he taught me, but the greatest thing he could have taught me was how to be a good man, how to be a good father, and how to be a good husband. Those are the three things I know he showed me an example of how to do. And I just want to tell you thank you, thank you, because you didn't have to do it, but you did, and you set an example for me, and I know I'm definitely a better man because of it. I appreciate you, Pop. Love you.
Thing I like best about my dad, the man's my twin, basically. So really, I guess I just like the fact that we get each other. We're both goofy. We both get on my mama nerves. And we both kind of think alike, in a sense. So he's my road dog. That's like my best friend. That's my dude right there. That's Bishop. I'm the only one that can call him Bishop though. Y'all don't do that. Don't do that. But yeah, I love my daddy for that. Yeah. My favorite story about my dad, I don't really have a favorite story, only because we're around each other a lot, and so every time I'm around him, it's always something. So, I guess the most recent one is when we went to DC. Seeing him wanting to go look at like all the sights and stuff, it really made me happy to see him happy. Like, he lit up when we went to the White House. That was it's funny because sometimes you look at your parents and you don't see them as anything else but your parents, but the older I get, the more I realize that they do have a life outside of just being a parent. So just seeing him light up, that right there is probably my favorite memory, most recent, if that. I want to thank my dad for being present. Yeah, being present, because a lot of people don't really have a dad or a father figure in their life, and mine has been with me since the day I was born. Like, we've been tight, like Mike and Ike. He's taught me a lot, even in the stuff that he doesn't say, and the stuff that he just like does. It teaches me something new almost every day. So I really just want to thank him for being like there, and being an example of something I should look forward to in hopefully a future spouse, but that's later on in life. But yeah, I really just want to thank him for being him and all that God leads him to be.
So Kenny, that's a result of that decision you made. That's any comments? How does that make you feel?
That does. It makes me feel real good, and I definitely am thankful to God for the opportunity to raise him and my daughter, and I'm thankful for my family. It's truly a blessing. It's truly a blessing. That y'all got me on that one. That's good. That's good.
Well, thank you for being a script flipper.
Well,
thank you for setting the example.
Praise God.
And thank you for coming in and sharing, because I know it's not always easy.
Right.
You're sharing your business with the world.
Right.
And that's a little scary sometimes.
It can be.
You have to be vulnerable, but I think you're going to inspire somebody, and that's why we wanted to have
yes,
you
sir.
here.
I sure hope so. I hope it touches somebody.
Yeah, and that's not only going to change them, it's going to change their children.
Absolutely.
And their children.
Yeah, that's right.
So, we use a cliche. If it's one person,
right. Yes,
it could be tens of thousands.
Correct.
But if it's just one person,
right.
And something you said inspires them,
right,
then you've affected generations to come.
Absolutely.
That's what we're all about.
Absolutely.
Thanks for coming in.
Thank you, Scott. Thanks for having me. I appreciate the opportunity to come.
It's great to get to hang out with you.
Yes, sir. It's been a long time.
All right, that'll conclude this episode of That's My Dad, where we're inspiring fathers to become great dads, and we're seeking to break cycles of generational fatherlessness. Hope you've enjoyed Kenny Malone's story. Be inspired, and if you're one of those guys that used to be in Kenny's shoes, look at him. See where he is now. You can do it too. See you next week.